pretty cold this morning. It is Friday morning and the dahlias are well and truly knocked out, so I'm going to chop them down today, and I've got a load of tulips to plant in the bed that they're in, so I'm going to do that. Let me run and grab the tulips. We've gone mostly pink and purple, so there is these chaps. And those guys. So got quite a lot to put in. We've got about 3 varieties in there already, and I'm just going to lay them straight out in the bed, so they'll come up and then they'll be gone and done and dusted before the dahlias actually come up next year. So yeah, better get on with it, I suppose. Actually, I think I might need a cup of tea first just to warm up my fingers. Yeah. Whew. The first ones I'm going to cut down are these ones, which are actually just straight in the ground. They are a really pretty pink one that most people on this site have at least one of on their allotment, because there was a guy who grew this particular variety and gave it to everybody, so it's almost our sort of site's native dahlia. But I do actually have a video, which was the first video I ever made actually for YouTube, which is about lifting dahlias for winter because they're not completely hardy. That was a year that I was lifting them anyway because we were moving them, but I'm not going to lift them this year because we are in London and it's not that cold. I mean, it feels it this morning, to be fair, but we don't get that cold, and we've got really, really sandy soil, so they're not likely to rot out. It's really free draining, so I'm going to leave these in place and just chop them back. I'm leaving a bit of stick above, a little bit like I did with the asparagus, so I can see where they are. But essentially, yeah, just taking them down and throwing the tops on the compost, and they should be fine. You can cover them in a bit of fleece if you're worried, but really it's the wet that's the problem. You can see these guys have really been blistered by the cold. These are the ones that are in the raised bed, so these are our kind of named variety dahlias. They were really successful this year. It was the first year we put them in, and we had cut flower like all year. This is the last flower, and look, the poor little thing is absolutely covered in ice crystals. That's so pretty. It looks like it's been, what's the word, like candied flower. So I'm going to do exactly the same with these, just chop them straight off. Again, this bed is going to be sandy soil, the same as the rest of our site, so there's not much chance of them rotting out, and I'm not going to lift them. We had a couple that didn't come up this year, so there's a couple of gaps, so I am going to infill. I've got about 4 more varieties to choose next year, which is quite exciting. Can't believe how quickly these bins fill up. Oh, the sun's coming out. So I've been planning to put the tulips in that I showed you earlier, but actually the ground is pretty hard and I don't have any suitable squirrel covering mesh or anything up here at the moment, so I think I'm going to leave that until the ground is defrosted a smidge. Oh, the sun really is bright. Yeah, but something I have just noticed when I've been wandering around is I have been bemoaning the fact that my field beans haven't come up over on Instagram. If you follow me over there, you will have heard me make mention of that nothing's appeared. And I was thinking that maybe the mice or the rats or the squirrels have taken it, because that does normally happen if I sow the broad beans outside, and obviously what with them being just a different variety of broad bean, I thought it was possible. But have a look. there he is. The first one that I spotted this morning. So they are in here, and once you've got your eye in and you see one, you can just see them all over the place. I've got another one coming up. Where is it? Just here? Yep. This bed had onions in it earlier in the year, and I'm noticing I didn't do a very good job of clearing them because they're still in there. But yes, so these are the other 3 beds that I've got of the field beans, and I was worried about these guys in particular because somebody's been digging in them. So I was thinking they've been digging for the field beans, but no, they are all coming up. You see them? Yep, so I don't need to fret about that anymore. They take a long time to germinate actually, seem to be longer than broad beans. The actual broad beans are looking a bit floppy because of the cold. I remember the first year they did this to me, I was thinking, oh God, I was told they were hardy, you know, and they've been got by the frost, but they're just play acting. They'll be standing up straight as anything tomorrow. They're drama queens.
Certainly got those out quickly.
Everything's looking pretty good underneath the kind of makeshift polyhouse on this bed. This was the chard and the turnips and the beetroot and the chicory. Looking pretty cosy. It's blooming cold, isn't it, girlies? Baba? Is it Chilli Willy? A Chilli Willy? Yeah. Very nippy.
Hey girlies, what are you doing? Hey Flo.
Mum's wrestling with the asparagus, just chopping it up into bits so that we can get it onto the compost heap. And you see on top of the barbecue there all of the red berries. I'm going to be putting them in a Christmas wreath. I know asparagus berries aren't traditional, but they're pretty festive, so they're going in. So one job down, and to be honest, we're all getting a bit cold. I'm wearing Wellington boots, which are really good in the wet, but pretty pants in the cold. They just seem to like suck all of the cold out of the soil and transfer them to your toes. So we're going to head home for lunch. We're going for a big old walk this afternoon in Richmond Park, so that's going to be really nice. Hopefully it will have warmed up slightly by then. And then we'll be back here tomorrow. I'm off for 3 days, so obviously it's Friday today. We got Saturday and Sunday. Potentially we could get quite a lot done. Right, well, it is considerably warmer this morning. We've had a couple of casualties. Obviously the dahlias went, but then we were taking them down anyway. The marigolds that we didn't take out a couple of weeks ago that were in the asparagus bed are completely gone. They look like they've been deep fried. And the last of the nasturtiums that were in the fruit cage, they're also gone. But it's just a bit of clearance, and they were going to go at some point anyway. It was just a matter of time, but that frost really did for them. So up here today, I've got the drill with me, and I've got quite a lot of bits to do along this side of the plot, which is the bit that's outside of the polytunnel. I've said before that we're planning to extend that, and I've got some bits and pieces that need to go in, and I've just got to do a bit of stuff with that first. But we're not entirely sure what to edge them with. So we have the raised beds here for a couple of reasons. We have raised beds because it makes life so much easier, particularly because we've got grass paths. It just means that you can strim straight up to them, and it makes looking after the paths really, really easy. Whereas if you've got cut-in beds, you have to kind of deal with your edges and all that kind of stuff, which we just don't do. So we want to do something similar along that edge so that we can kind of keep inside weeded and then keep the grass trimmed on the outside. But buying stone edging isn't really an option because it's too expensive. So we do have some decking boards left over from when I was making beds last time, and I'm thinking about using them, but we don't really want it to be that high, and I don't know if I'm being completely nuts in thinking I might cut them lengthways. Now if I took them home I could just run them through the table saw, but it means taking them home. But to be fair, it's just going to take me forever to do them by hand, isn't it? So yeah, I might mark it out today and get all of that stuff sorted and then measure my lengths, because I need a little bit of that board to finish off something at the back of the polytunnel. So yeah, so quite a lot of things on the cards today. I'm just going to go and get on with it because it is already the afternoon, and it gets dark at like 3:30, so we don't have that long. I better stop chatting and go. So just a quick recap of the area. So this is the pond and where we're going to have the first of the wildflower meadows. I've just, you know, cardboarded it and stuck compost on top for the winter. And then it's this side that I'm going to be working on today. So along this edge here, doing my air hostess bit, I'm going to be cutting the path so that it's the same width as it is between the beds, running along from here where I made the little bed outside the chicken house, and just chopping the grass all the way up here. We've got this really wide path on this side and it's totally unnecessary. So I'm just going to chop it down basically and turn more of the area over to flowers. The section in front of the polytunnel is actually going to be for herbs rather than just flowers. A lot of the herbs are going to stay quite low, so things like thyme and marjoram, we've got some hyssop and that sort of thing, are all going to go in front of there because this is the angle that the sun comes in at, and we don't want anything too tall in front of the poly because that's where it's getting its main burst of sunlight from. So I'm going to keep everything really low in front of it, and then on the closer side to us now, I'll put the taller things in. Right, it's mapped out. Obviously I've made the sensible decision that I'm going to take the boards home with me and just put them through the table saw rather than do them by hand. Yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to de-turf it now, do my little bit of time team and scoop up the turf. Often, like when I've done it before on the other beds, I just take it out and put it somewhere where the grass isn't growing so well here. But actually, I don't know if you can see, but the path actually dips down, going that way like that. So I'm going to turf it and then like lay it backwards on top of the turf that's behind it to build up the path so that the path is more level. Yeah, that is my next job. You right, girlies? Was that a worm massacre? Okay, so I've kind of got this bit sorted now. So what we've got growing in here already is a load of this Lychnis, which is great. We've already transplanted quite a lot of this, so I'm just going to move it out of the way here because it's quite tall and it's at the front. And then we've got all these Californian poppies, and then in here, I don't know if you can see them, I've got really pretty little allium bulbs, but they're totally lost in this section, so I'm going to transplant them to the brick circle around the base of the apple tree. And then we've got these nerines, which is such a lovely thing because they come out so late in the year. Just when everything's fading over, you get this like really bright pop of kind of fuchsia pink, and we've got a little bit of a late chap there still coming up. And then all across the back here is going to be honeysuckle, so blocking us off from the school almost entirely. In front of the metal shed, which is the netting shed, I've got this Hot Lips salvia, which is a joy. This came from a cutting, and that seems to be doing really well. It's not been bothered by the cold. But on the other side, I've got a pineapple sage, which unfortunately I planted just before the cold weather. I didn't realise it was going to be so cold, and I think that's gone. But I've got an amazing one at home, which is what this was a cutting from. So I'll show you that before the end of this week's vlog because it's magnificent. That's going to look amazing there if I can actually get it to survive. So yeah, there we have it. These are the two bits which are going to be for the herbs, so the low growing bits and pieces, and this is the hyssop that I've got kind of waiting to go in. And then I've also got some mint, which obviously I'm going to, this is a really densely packed pot, I'm going to separate it all out and plant it in sunken pots so it doesn't spread too badly. And in here I've got some more cuttings ready to go. I have a rosemary and a sage, all from cuttings. Very cheap plants that way. So yeah, quite a bit of progress made today. Okay, well we are losing the light now. Oddly, it looks much brighter on my phone than it does like actually in real life. So yeah, see you at home I think. Good morning guys, it is Sunday. I've got quite a lot to do today, but most of it's not at the plot because this working malarkey just takes up loads of your time. And I'm trying to get, because I'm self-employed for 2 jobs and employed in a university for my other job, I was trying to use QuickBooks, you know, like an online accounting kind of thing, rather than trying to do all my own accounts, which I've got to admit I'm not fantastic at. I mean, I do it, but it's not my favourite activity. And I thought, oh, QuickBooks sounds like a really good idea. But it turns out that you can't do the things that I want to do on it. And then the way to do the things I wanted to do it was to put like an overlay over it, which was called Mint, which is another program. And then it turns out you can only use Mint if you're in the USA or Canada. So I wasted about 4 hours of my life doing that yesterday. So today I'm going to be trying to find an alternative this afternoon because I really need to get on that. But first of all, I'm going to be going up to the allotment this morning because I've got to swap over the frontage of the compost bins, but more about that later. I'm also going to be drying off some chilies. So, you know, I've had the chilies hanging, I mean, I've taken them down now, but they were up there. I had the lemon drops and the habaneros hanging up behind me. Well, worked perfectly for the lemon drop, and I did it like that last year. But I've never tried to dry habaneros before. In fact, this was the first year I've ever grown them, and it did not work at all. The ones I hung up just went rotten. They looked like they were dried, and then when you open them up, they just were full of mold. So luckily I didn't actually string that many of them up, and I'm going to oven dry them this morning. So it just means laying them out. I'm also going to do that for the last of the lemon drop because it just takes too long up like that. And now the atmosphere is really kind of cold and damp, so it's just going to take them ages. So I'm going to do that for all the chilies that I've got left over now. I'm just going to cut them in half and lay them, you know, face up on an oven tray. Stick them in the oven at like the lowest, so it's going to be about 70 degrees, maybe even slightly lower than that if I can get it to go lower. Yeah, and just leave them in there while I head up to the allotment, sort the compost bins out, then I'll be back. Then I'm going to grind them up, so they'll probably be in the oven for about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. It's going to be so low they're not going to burn, so I'm not going to worry about if I'm delayed at the allotment. Yeah, then it's back here to grind them up into specific chili powders, so I'll keep them in their varieties, and then I can always mix and match when I'm doing whatever I'm doing. Yeah, that's basically my morning. I better get on with that because my afternoon looks like it's going to be spent trawling the internet for accounting things. The thing that I want, if anybody's got any suggestions, what I'm after is an accounting thing where I can put in wages from different income streams. Different income streams is fine, but on QuickBooks you can, God, this is dull, I'm sorry. QuickBooks, you can only do things that are registered as kind of tax brackets and things that are taxable or untaxable. And what I need to be able to do is have multiple income streams that some are taxed at source. So when you work for a university, like they already take the tax on it, but when I put it into QuickBooks, it calculates that as part of my tax. Jesus, this is boring. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go and do the chilies. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. So all I've done is chop the chilies in half and just laid them on this baking tray. I've been none too precious about it. These are the black jalapenos. You can see some of them are red, some of them are kind of green, yellow, a whole mix, and I'm just going to put them in like that. Please excuse the state of the back garden, it's an absolute tip. But this is what that little cutting from yesterday that I planted out and got by the frost should turn into. It's a pineapple sage and it's glorious. It's pretty big, isn't it? Its leaves smell exactly like pineapple and it's perfect in a gin and tonic. It's cold. Right, we're up here. Sorry if the noise is terrible. They school the lawnmowers going and there's kids having PE lessons and all that kind of stuff. So these are our two main bins. It's a bit like sort of goes this way. So we've got 3 bins. That's the third one just behind there. But these two are kind of the ones which do most of the up and down because currently this bin is where we're putting the fresh stuff. So as soon as that's full, it'll be really high and we will turn it all into that bin. And what's in that bin has had its second rot down and that will go into the bin that's behind me. But these 2 bins, we swap. Can you see that the frontage of that one is just sort of like one big slat? We swap that over quite a lot between these 2 because when we empty this bin into that bin, it's really, really high and then it rots down incredibly quickly, just in time for this one to start filling up beyond the base. So this one, I mean, I transferred that over like not that many vlogs ago and it's already really down. So I'm just going to take that front off and stick it on here. But you'll see when I take the front off how low it is already. So I don't know if you remember, it really wasn't that long ago that I transferred all that stringy mess into this bin, and it now looks gorgeous. So this is what it's looking like right at the beginning. That, and then it goes into that other bin. And then when it's ready to use, we transfer it into the third bin, which is this one over here, where we just basically store the compost before we use it. And it's really lovely compost. Gorgeous stuff. Gorgeous stuff. But yeah, I'm actually pretty inadequately dressed, so I don't think I'm going to be up here very long. I'm going to go and sort the chickens out. Mum's raking leaves, and then we'll probably head home. Like I say, I've got really boring stuff to do this afternoon. Well, that was a very unsuccessful afternoon on the internet. I didn't get anywhere. I've gone back to using Excel. So if you've got any suggestions, let me know. But I did get quite a lot done at the allotment this weekend, which is pretty handy. And also the chilies that I put in before we went to the allotment today have all come out perfect. Let me show you. I've divided them back out into their variety groups because I'm going to make the chili powders separate. So the hot lemon chili powder will be totally separate from the habanero chili powder. So yeah, like I said, I'm just going to go and grind them up. I'm going to use a spice grinder, which is something which is completely invaluable. I don't know if you've got a spice grinder, but I thought it was a bit of an excessive thing to have, actually, because like, if you've got a food processor or a grinder or whatever, I thought that'd be fine. But the spice grinder is a joy. Just in case you haven't got one already, I think it's a good idea. And Christmas is coming up. Okay, I'm going to start with this sort of mixed bag of the black jalapenos. There's all sorts in there. I'm going to do this one quite coarse because I've already done a really fine one. So I'll have two different kind of ground up jalapeno mixes, but they taste really, really different when they're at different stages of their life. This is a powder, a really fine one I made of the really super ripe black jalapenos that had gone totally red. I've just got it in this nutmeg jar, but that's magnificent. And this one you can see is really quite different, even though it's from the same chilies. So I'll keep them separate. I'm actually a bit short on things to store these in, so I'm just going to have them in these open jars for the minute until I can find something suitable. I've got loads of jars, but they're all massive, like marmalade jars, and that's not really any good. So now I'm going to do the hot lemon ones. I'm going to keep the green hot lemons out because one of the things that's so lovely about the hot lemon ground powder is the colour of it's amazing. If I put the green ones in, it will kind of dilute that colour. Look at that, it's so bright. It's so beautiful. Look at that. Sunshine. Absolute sunshine. So I'll just stick the rest of these habaneros in here. I've actually got some that I already sort of cooked, I already dried out, that are in a jar, so I'm just going to top this lot up with those. When they're at this stage, they store really well just as dried, or you can like do what I'm doing, grind them up, or you can just put them in olive oil and they're absolutely perfect. They go like sun-dried tomatoes, that kind of texture, and also it flavours your oil, so win-win. Just being a bit cautious here because this one's really hot. Gorgeous, beautiful, so pretty, and so different in flavour from each other. That's what makes it so good. So I'm just going to carry on with that and make some dinner, drink some wine, and get ready for work tomorrow. One tip, when you're grinding the chilies, when you pull that top off, don't take a deep breath in. I've made that mistake. That wasn't pretty. All right, chaps, if you enjoyed it, please give me the thumbs up. And if you haven't already, think about subscribing. Can't believe we already got to 2,500 subscribers. It's pretty amazing. I'm astounded, really. Seems like only yesterday that I started these, but then again, this is vlog number 34. So, yeah. I hope you all have an absolutely spectacular week, and I'll see you this time next week. Bye, chaps. Cheers.